Sophia Karen had exactly 8 hours left to breathe when she walked in her dream honeymoon villa in Goa. But when her new husband Vikas discovered the photos hidden in her phone that revealed her modeling career, their paradise retreat would become her tomb before sunrise. If you're fascinated by the deadly secrets behind India's most lavish weddings and how traditional families can turn paradise into a nightmare, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more shocking true crime stories that expose the dark side of family honor. But let's go back to where it all began. The grand ballroom of the Leela Palace in New Delhi had never hosted a more spectacular wedding celebration. On February 14th, 2024, what should have been Valentine's Day romance would become the prelude to one of India's most shocking honeymoon murders. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over 800 guests dressed in their finest silk saris and embroidered sherwanis, while the air was thick with the intoxicating scent of jasmine, roses, and sandalwood incense. This was the union of Sophia Karen and Vikas Thakur, and it represented everything a Bollywood fairy tale should be. Sophia, 26 years old and radiant in her crimson and gold lehenga, sat beside the sacred fire as the pundit chanted ancient Sanskrit verses. Her hands were decorated with intricate mehendi patterns that had taken 8 hours to complete, and her neck was adorned with a heavy diamond and ruby necklace that had belonged to Vikas's grandmother for 3 generations. She looked like a princess from a movie, which was exactly what both families had dreamed of for this moment. The Karen family had invested their entire savings into this celebration. Sophia's father, Rajesh Karen, was a successful but modest textile merchant who had worked 18-hour days for 3 years to afford the wedding his daughter deserved. Her mother, Sunita, had sold her own ancestral jewelry to pay for Sophia's trousseau and wedding outfit. For them, this wasn't just a wedding ceremony. It was their daughter's ascension into Delhi's most prestigious business elite. Vikas Thakur, 31 years old and heir to a pharmaceutical manufacturing empire, represented everything the Karen family had hoped for their daughter. Tall, handsome, and educated at Oxford University, he was considered one of Delhi's most eligible bachelors. His family's wealth was legendary in business circles, with factories across 3 states and a net worth that made them members of India's industrial aristocracy. Their approval of Sophia had been seen as a miracle by everyone who knew the couple's backgrounds. The Thakur family had their own very specific reasons for accepting Sophia as their daughter-in-law. Vikas's mother, Kamala Thakur, was a woman who believed deeply that a successful marriage required a wife with impeccable moral character and traditional values. She had personally investigated several potential brides before choosing Sophia, specifically because she appeared to come from a conservative, family-oriented background with no hint of modern rebellion or independence. "She's perfect for our Vikas," Kamala had told her husband and mother-in-law during the family meeting that decided Sophia's fate. A beautiful girl from a respectable business family, with traditional values and no history of any inappropriate behavior. Not like these modern girls who think they can do whatever they want and still expect to marry into good families. The wedding ceremony had lasted 5 hours, with each ritual performed according to ancient Hindu traditions that had been passed down through generations. Sophia and Vikas had walked around the sacred fire 7 times, making solemn vows that were supposed to bind them together for 7 lifetimes. The guests had thrown rose petals and rice, blessing the couple with prosperity, happiness, and many children. The celebration had cost over 2 crore rupees and featured the most expensive caterers, decorators, and entertainment that Delhi could provide. But beneath the surface of this perfect celebration, dangerous secrets were already threatening to destroy everything. Sophia was hiding a past that would shatter not just her marriage, but her life itself when it was discovered in less than 24 hours. 3 years before her wedding night murder, Sophia Karen was just another ambitious college student in Mumbai, completely unaware that pursuing her dreams would eventually cost her everything. Make sure you're subscribed because this chapter reveals the dangerous secret that would seal Sophia's fate in that Goa villa, where paradise became a death trap. Sophia's modeling career began innocently enough during her 2nd year at Mumbai University, where she was studying fashion design. At 21, she was discovered by talent scout Arjun Mehta outside a coffee shop in Bandra, where she was sketching dress designs for her portfolio. "You have the perfect bone structure for camera work," he had told her, handing her a business card for Elite Models Mumbai. "Have you ever considered modeling?" The suggestion excited Sophia more than she wanted to admit. Growing up in Delhi's middle-class society, she had always been told she was beautiful, but the idea of turning that beauty into a career seemed like a fantasy. Her parents had sent her to Mumbai, specifically to study fashion design, hoping she would eventually work for a respectable fashion house or start her own boutique. They had no idea their daughter was about to enter a world they would consider scandalous and inappropriate for a girl from a good family. Sophia's first photo shoot was for a local jewelry brand, wearing traditional Indian jewelry with elegant saris. The photographer, Karan Singh, was a well-respected professional who made her feel comfortable and confident. The photos were stunning, showcasing Sophia's natural elegance and photogenic features. When the images were published in a regional fashion magazine, Sophia felt a rush of pride and accomplishment she had never experienced before. Over the next 2 years, Sophia's modeling portfolio grew steadily. She worked with legitimate brands, always maintaining strict boundaries about the type of work she would accept. Her specialty became high-end Indian wear, jewelry, and beauty products. She worked with brands like Tanishq, Fab India, and several regional designers who appreciated her classical Indian beauty combined with modern sensibilities. The money was excellent, allowing her to pay for her education and even send money home to help her family. But Sophia was living a double life that required constant deception. She told her parents that her extra income came from freelance fashion design work and tutoring other students. She created fake invoices and invented clients to explain the money she was earning. Her modeling portfolio was kept secret, stored in a private folder on her phone and laptop that she protected with multiple passwords. The deception became more complex when Sophia started working with international brands during her final year. A photo shoot for a luxury resort chain required her to wear Western clothing, including elegant evening gowns and swimwear that, while tasteful, would have horrified her traditional family. Another campaign for a perfume brand featured her in contemporary Indian fusion, where that showed more skin than her family would ever approve of. Sophia knew these photos were potentially dangerous to her future marriage prospects, but she convinced herself that her modeling career was temporary. She planned to stop modeling after graduation and return to Delhi as the dutiful daughter her parents expected. The photos would remain buried in her past, never to be discovered by her future in-laws. When her parents began discussing marriage arrangements during her final semester, Sophia felt the weight of her secret growing heavier. Traditional families would never accept a bride who had worked as a model, regardless of how respectable the work had been. The very idea of their daughter being photographed professionally, having her images published, and earning money through her appearance would be seen as a fundamental violation of family honor. Sophia made the painful decision to delete her social media accounts, destroy most of her portfolio, and create a completely false narrative about her college years. She told her parents she had spent her time studying, volunteering at temples, and learning traditional cooking from her roommate's mother. She practiced this fiction until it became second nature, creating an entirely new version of herself that would be acceptable to prospective in-laws. When the Thakur family's proposal came through their family astrologer, Sophia saw it as her chance for redemption. Vikas seemed kind and respectful during their chaperone meetings, nothing like the arrogant wealthy men she had expected to encounter. She convinced herself that her modeling past didn't matter as long as she never revealed it. She had been professional, maintained her dignity, and never compromised her moral boundaries. But Sophia had made one crucial mistake that would prove fatal. In her rush to erase her modeling career from public view, she had forgotten about the backup folder on her phone that automatically saved copies of all her professional photos. Hidden deep in her device's memory, dozens of images from her modeling career remained like time bombs waiting to explode her carefully constructed new life. As her wedding day approached, Sophia felt increasingly trapped by her deception. Every time Kamala Thakur praised her traditional values and pure character, every time Vikas spoke about their future with innocent trust, Sophia felt the crushing weight of her lies. She told herself that her modeling work had been legitimate and respectable, that she had nothing to be ashamed of. But she also understood that in the world she was entering, respectability was defined very differently. The final month before her wedding was psychological torture. Sophia would lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling of her childhood bedroom, wondering if she should confess everything to Vikas. She imagined different scenarios: his understanding, his anger, his family's rejection. Each possibility terrified her more than the last, so she chose silence and hoped her past would remain buried forever. During the wedding preparations, as relatives and friends praised her for finding such a perfect husband, Sophia felt like she was preparing for her own execution rather than her marriage. She knew that her entire future happiness depended on a lie, and that if the truth ever emerged, the consequences would be devastating. As she prepared for her honeymoon in Goa, Sophia made one final attempt to ensure her safety. She went through her phone systematically, deleting every photo and application that could potentially expose her secret. But technology would prove to be her enemy, and the backup folder she had forgotten would become the evidence that condemned her to death in paradise. The luxury villa in North Goa was everything Sophia and Vikas had dreamed of for their honeymoon, but within hours it would become the scene of India's most shocking newlywed murder. Don't forget to subscribe, because this is where Sophia's carefully hidden past collides with her new family's deadly obsession with honor, turning paradise into a nightmare that would end in blood. The Casa Bella Vista sat on a private stretch of Candolim Beach, surrounded by swaying palm trees and overlooking the Arabian Sea. The three-bedroom villa, costing 50,000 rupees per night, featured marble floors, infinity pools, and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered breathtaking sunset views. It was the perfect romantic retreat for newlyweds, which was exactly why Vikas had chosen it as a surprise for his bride. Sophia felt genuinely happy for the first time in months as their private car pulled through the villa's gates on February 15th at 3 p.m. The weight of the wedding ceremony was behind them, and she convinced herself that her fears about her hidden past had been unnecessary paranoia. Vikas had been nothing but loving and attentive during their journey from Delhi, constantly taking photos of them together and posting updates on social media about their perfect beginning as husband and wife. "Welcome to paradise, Mrs. Thakur," Vikas said as he carried her over the threshold, both of them laughing as he nearly stumbled on the marble entrance. The villa staff had prepared rose petals and champagne, creating an atmosphere of pure romance that made Sophia feel like she was living in a Bollywood film. The first few hours were blissful. They explored the villa's amenities, took photos by the pool, and enjoyed a private lunch of Goan seafood curry prepared by the villa's chef. Vikas was the perfect husband, attentive, romantic, and clearly excited about their new life together. Sophia began to relax, thinking that perhaps she had worried unnecessarily about her secret past. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Sophia and Vikas decided to take a romantic walk along their private beach. The warm sand beneath their feet and the sound of waves created a perfect moment that Sophia wanted to preserve forever. Vikas pulled out his phone to capture the sunset, and Sophia posed naturally against the dramatic backdrop. "Send me all these photos later," Sophia said as they walked back to the villa. "I want to create an album of our first day as husband and wife." Vikas smiled and promised to transfer all the images to her phone that evening. Neither of them realized that this simple request would trigger the chain of events that would end Sophia's life before dawn. Back at the villa, they showered and changed for dinner. Sophia wore a flowing silk dress that Vikas had bought for her in London, while he dressed casually in linen pants and a white shirt. The villa staff had prepared a candlelit dinner on the terrace overlooking the ocean, complete with local musicians playing soft Indian classical music. During dinner, Vikas talked excitedly about their future together. He spoke about expanding his family's pharmaceutical business, about the children they would have, about the life they would build in Delhi's most exclusive neighborhoods. Sophia listened and smiled, but part of her mind was still worried about maintaining the perfect wife image his family expected. After dinner, they moved to the villa's main bedroom, where the staff had prepared rose petals and romantic lighting. Vikas pulled out his phone to connect to the villa's Wi-Fi, so he could upload their wedding and honeymoon photos to share with family members who had been asking for updates. "Let me use your phone too," he said casually. "I want to make sure we get both perspectives of our first day." Sophia hesitated for just a moment, but refusing would have seemed strange, so she handed him her device with her usual password. Vikas began scrolling through Sophia's photos, looking for the images they had taken that day. But as he navigated through her phone's gallery, he stumbled upon a folder he had never seen before, buried deep in her photo storage. The folder was labeled Backup_Archive and contained dozens of professional photographs. The first image that appeared on the screen showed Sophia, in an elegant evening gown, posed professionally against a studio backdrop. Her hair was styled differently, more modern and glamorous than he had ever seen it, and she was wearing makeup that emphasized her features in a way that was distinctly professional rather than personal. Vikas's smile faded as he continued scrolling. Image after image revealed a side of Sophia he had never known existed. There were photos of her modeling traditional Indian jewelry, but also images of her in contemporary Western wear, swimwear, and fusion outfits that showed more of her figure than he had ever seen. Each photo was clearly professional, with studio lighting and pose compositions that indicated a serious modeling career. "Sophia," he said quietly, his voice already changing from loving to suspicious. "What are these photos?" Sophia's heart stopped. The moment she had feared for months had finally arrived, and it was happening in what should have been their romantic paradise. She turned to see her husband staring at her phone screen with an expression of growing shock and betrayal. "I can explain," she said, but even as the words left her mouth, she could see that it was already too late. The look in Vikas's eyes was transforming from confusion to anger to something much more dangerous. The fairy tale honeymoon was about to become a nightmare, and Sophia Karen had less than 8 hours left to live. The romantic candlelit atmosphere of the villa turned toxic within seconds as Vikas continued scrolling through Sophia's hidden modeling portfolio. Each professional photograph he discovered felt like another betrayal, another lie that destroyed the image of the pure, traditional wife he thought he had married. "You were a model," he said, his voice barely above a whisper but filled with disgust. "You posed for photographers. You let strangers take pictures of your body. You earn money by displaying yourself." Sophia tried to approach him, but Vikas backed away as if she were contaminated. "Vikas, please let me explain. It was just professional work. I never did anything inappropriate. I was always fully clothed and respectful." "Respectful?" His voice began to rise, echoing off the villa's marble walls. "You call this respectful? You call lying to my family respectful? You made fools of all of us." The photos told a story that horrified Vikas more with each image. Sophia, in an elegant black evening gown for a luxury hotel campaign. Sophia, in a silk sari showcasing traditional jewelry, but photographed in a way that emphasized her beauty and sensuality. Sophia, in a tasteful swimsuit for a resort advertisement, smiling confidently at the camera. "My mother specifically chose you because she believed you were different from modern girls," Vikas continued, his anger building to dangerous levels. "She praised your traditional values to everyone she knows. She told the entire Delhi social circle that I was marrying a pure, untouched girl from a good family." "I am from a good family," Sophia protested, tears beginning to stream down her face. "I'm a good person. Having a modeling career doesn't change that. It doesn't make me impure or unworthy." But Vikas was no longer listening to reason. His family had raised him with very specific beliefs about women, honor, and marriage. In his mind, Sophia's modeling career represented everything his mother had warned him about modern women who prioritize their own desires over family expectations and traditional values. "Do you have any idea what this will do to our family's reputation?" he demanded. "Do you understand that these photos could be seen by anyone? That our business associates, our relatives, our friends could find images of my wife posing for cameras like some common actress?" "There's nothing wrong with being an actress," Sophia said, finding some courage in her desperation. "There's nothing wrong with being a model. I worked with respected brands and maintained my dignity throughout my career." Her words only enraged Vikas further. The idea that his wife would defend her actions rather than showing shame and remorse was incomprehensible to him. In his worldview, she should be begging for forgiveness, not arguing for acceptance. "You deceived us," he said, beginning to pace the villa's spacious bedroom like a caged animal. "You built our entire relationship on lies. You made me believe I was marrying a traditional girl when you're nothing but a fraud." Sophia was crying harder now, but she refused to accept his characterization of her. "I'm not a fraud, Vikas. I'm the same person you fell in love with. My modeling career was just work, just a way to pay for my education and support my family. It doesn't define who I am. It defines everything about who you are. Vikas replied coldly. It shows that you value money and attention over family honor. It shows that you're willing to display your body for strangers. It shows that you can lie convincingly for years. The argument continued for over an hour, with Sophia trying desperately to make Vikas understand that her modeling work had been professional and respectable, while he became increasingly convinced that she had fundamentally deceived him about her character. As the night wore on, his anger transformed into something much more dangerous. I need to call my mother, Vikas said, reaching for his phone. She needs to know what kind of woman she brought into our family. No. Sophia lunged for the phone, but Vikas pushed her away roughly, causing her to stumble against the villa's glass coffee table. Please, Vikas, we can work this out between us. We don't need to involve your family. Involve them? You involved them the moment you decided to marry into our family, while hiding who you really are. His voice had become eerily calm, which frightened Sophia more than his anger had. When Sophia looked into her husband's eyes, she saw something that chilled her to the bone. This wasn't just disappointment or betrayal. This was the look of someone who had decided she needed to be punished, and that the punishment should match the magnitude of her deception. At 11:47 p.m., exactly 8 hours after Sophia had walked into paradise, Vikas picked up the heavy crystal vase that had been filled with the villa's welcome flowers. Sophia saw the movement and tried to run toward the bedroom door, but the marble floors were slippery, and she fell before she could escape. The first blow struck her head with devastating force. As Sophia collapsed, her last coherent thought was wonder at how quickly love had transformed into lethal hatred. The Paradise Villa's romantic atmosphere was shattered by violence, and Sophia Karen's fairy tale marriage ended in blood before she could understand how traditional family honor had become more valuable than her life. At sunrise, the villa staff would discover that their romantic honeymoon retreat had become a crime scene that would shock all of India. At 7:30 a.m. on February 16th, the villa's housekeeping staff made a discovery that would send shockwaves through India's elite social circles. Sophia's body lay motionless on the marble floor of the master bedroom, surrounded by shattered crystal and rose petals that had turned dark with blood. The romantic paradise had become a crime scene that would expose the deadly cost of family honor obsession. Villa manager Rajesh Fernandez immediately called the Goa police, but Vikas Thakur was nowhere to be found. Hotel security footage revealed that he had left the property at 4:15 a.m., driving erratically toward Dabolim Airport in the rental car that should have been used for romantic sightseeing tours. Inspector Pradeep Naik arrived within 30 minutes, bringing 15 years of experience investigating domestic violence cases in Goa's luxury resorts. But even his seasoned perspective was shaken by the brutality of Sophia's murder. The crystal vase used to kill her lay shattered nearby, covered in blood evidence that would prove crucial to the prosecution. This wasn't a crime of passion, Inspector Naik told his team as they processed the scene. The victim tried to escape. She was pursued and struck multiple times. This shows premeditation and extreme rage. The forensic evidence painted a clear picture of Sophia's final moments. Defensive wounds on her hands and arms indicated she had fought desperately for her life. Blood spatter patterns showed she had been struck at least 4 times with the crystal vase, with increasing force as her husband's rage escalated. Most damning was the discovery of Sophia's phone, still displaying the modeling photos that had triggered the deadly confrontation. Inspector Naik's team also found a voice recording on Sophia's phone, created during the argument as she had tried to document what was happening. Her terrified voice whispered, "He says I've dishonored his family. He says I'm not worthy to be his wife. He's getting more violent. If something happens to me, it's because I was a model before marriage. Because I had a career." The recording was enough to issue an immediate arrest warrant for Vikas Thakur. Airport authorities found him attempting to board a flight to Dubai, carrying a suitcase full of cash and his wife's jewelry. When arrested, he showed no remorse, telling police that Sophia had got what she deserved for deceiving his family. The trial that followed captivated India's media and sparked nationwide debates about women's rights, arranged marriages, and the deadly consequences of honor-based violence. Public prosecutor Meera Desai painted a devastating picture of a family so obsessed with controlling women that they considered murder preferable to public embarrassment. This case represents the worst aspects of patriarchal thinking, Desai told the packed courtroom. Sophia Karen was murdered not for committing any crime, but for the crime of having a career, for the crime of being financially independent, for the crime of having a life before marriage. The defense argued that Vikas had been deceived and had acted in the heat of passion upon discovering his wife's betrayal. But the evidence showed clear premeditation. Text messages revealed that Vikas had contacted his mother immediately after finding the photos, and Kamala Thakur had responded, "Some dishonors can only be washed away with blood." When Kamala Thakur took the witness stand, her testimony horrified the courtroom. "She made fools of our entire family," she said without showing any remorse. She pretended to be pure and traditional while she had been displaying herself for money. In our culture, such deception cannot be tolerated. "So you believe murder was justified?" Prosecutor Desai asked. "I believe protecting our family's honor was justified," Kamala replied, causing gasps throughout the courtroom. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours before returning guilty verdicts. Judge Ravi Sharma's words during sentencing resonated across India. In the 21st century, there is no honor in murder. There is no tradition that justifies taking a life. Sophia Karen was killed for the crime of being human, of having ambitions, of refusing to be the perfect object her in-laws demanded. Vikas Thakur received life imprisonment without possibility of parole. Kamala Thakur was sentenced to 20 years for conspiracy and accessory to murder. The case established important legal precedents for honor-based violence and inspired stronger protections for women in arranged marriages. Sophia's parents, devastated by their daughter's death, used the media attention to advocate for women's rights. "Our daughter died because she had dreams," her father said. "No woman should die for having a career." The Casa Bella Vista Villa was permanently removed from the rental market and converted into a women's shelter. A memorial plaque honors all victims of domestic violence, though Sophia's name isn't mentioned directly. 3 years later, Sophia's story continues to inspire legal reforms and social change across India. Her modeling portfolio, once considered evidence of shame, is now displayed in galleries as a symbol of women's right to career independence. The fairy tale that ended in blood had a final chapter written by justice, ensuring that Sophia Karen's legacy would be stronger than the honor that killed her.